Chair Miller. Board Member Arkelian.
Here.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Here.
Board Member Klein.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to apologize for running a little late. We had a little technical issue that we got resolved, so moving on. We have any public comment?
Mr. Chair, just make sure your microphone's on.
And my microphone is on now. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for the public discussion. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Is it for an item not on today's agenda?
I'm sorry.
Is
Number 2, item number 2.
okay.
Okay, make sure you fill out a slip, correct? A speaker slip, so that, and then please give it to Ms. Gu. She'll make sure you get called. Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes of the single-family design for May 23rd, 2022. Can we go through the items, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Garson will go through each item on the agenda, identify the address and the decision from the meeting. Thank you.
Item 1 was 910 San Carlos Road. And it was continued indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. Item 2, 2315 Edgewater Way, was continued to Planning Commission with the following comments. Item 3, 545 La Marina Drive, continued indefinitely to the full board with comments. Item 4, 1326 Hillcrest Road. Received project design approval and to return to the full board for final approval with the following comments. Okay, that concludes the minutes from the SFDB full board meeting of May 23rd.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Can I have roll call, please?
Here we go. Chair Miller.
Yes.
Board Member Arkelian.
Yes.
Board Member Klein.
Yes.
And Board Member Brentlinger has to abstain.
I do.
Thank you.
Before we go on, I was given these minutes for today at consent for 25 Los Alturas Road, and I noticed in one of the items that spoke, it said, individual comments. Board Member Colas stated that she opposed the motion because she is not in support of the disparate materials being proposed. Was disparate?
Disparate, probably. Yeah. She's a visual candidate.
I'm impressed. Okay. Well, moving on. Approval of the consent calendar for Tuesday, May 21st. May we go through the items, please?
Okay, item A, 1161 East Coda Street. Received, oh, no, that was requested. Oh. Received review after final with the following conditions. Item B, 414 Yankee Farm Road. Received approval of review after final with the following comment.
All right, thank you. May I have
One
motion-
last item.
Oh, sure.
Item C, 647 Sea Ranch Drive. Received project design approval and final approval with the following findings. Thank you. D, 476 Paseo del Descanso. Received project design approval and final approval with the following findings. Item E, 270 San Rafael. Project design approval and continued indefinitely to receive final approval with the following comments. That's it. That concludes for the consent calendar on May 31st.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Here we go. Chair Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Arquillian.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to today's consent calendar for June 6th. May we go through the items, please?
Item A, 302 Coleman Avenue.
Oh, it's just the agenda. Apologies.
Beginning again. Item A, 302 Coleman Avenue was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with the following comments. Thank you. Item B, 1142 Harbor Hills Drive, received approval after review after final, as submitted with the following comments. And item C, 1515 Santa Rosa Avenue.
This doesn't,
No?
I don't think that's,
Mr. Chair, what's on screen is just the agenda. We're reading the draft minutes
Oh,
for
okay.
your reference. Thank you.
Item C, 1515 Santa Rosa Avenue, received final approval as submitted. Item D, 2345 Skyline Way, was continued to the full board with a comment. Item E, 3067 Paseo del Descanso, was postponed indefinitely per the applicant's absence.
all right, thank you very much. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Here we go. Chair Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Killian,
Yes.
and Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, any future agenda items, and appeals. Do we have anything like that to put in the record?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have an appeal that was scheduled for 691 North Hope. However, that has been postponed to Tuesday, July 26th. And Board Member Kalas, who had suggested that she could attend, is not available for that date. We are looking for a member of the board to attend for
Okay.
the July 26th City Council hearing, and just to explain how the board granted project design approval for the
It's my
project.
understanding, I wasn't present to this, so
Yeah.
someone here who has been on that.
I'm out of town that day. Sorry.
Okay. Would either, it's July 26th, and we can also follow up via email. I'm just putting it out there as something that we're looking for. And again, that's for the Lot 6 of that subdivision project on Hope. So we can follow up about that.
All right, thank you. And I don't think we have any subcommittee reports at this time, so we will move on to item number 1, 25 Los Alturas Road. This is a continued item requesting project design approval. It's a proposal to convert the existing 427 square foot carport to a 2-car garage with a 457 square foot second story addition above. Project includes a 72 square foot addition at the lower level, an interior remodel, and window replacements throughout the 1,790 square foot single unit residence located in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 2,675 square feet on a 6,098 square foot lot is 99% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. The Planning Commission granted full approval of a floor area modification on May 12, 2022. Again, project design approval is requested. Neighborhood preservation findings and Hillside Design District and slope lot findings are required. Project was last reviewed on February 28th. Do we have minutes to read into the record? And it's got that new word that I didn't know existed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. Bear with me while we pull it up. All right, these are the minutes from the February 28th, 2022 hearing. The motion was continued to the Planning Commission and returned to full board for project design approval and final approval with comments. The board is in support of the project as it relates to the requested floor area modification. The board supports exempting the project from story poles and other visual aids as the proposed addition is consistent with the neighborhood in size, bulk, and scale. No public views are being blocked, and the addition is not visible from the street. The project fits with the natural topography of the site and is consistent with the Hillside Design District guidelines. In general, the board has positive comments for the project in regards to the neighborhood preservation findings. Motion was made by Klein, seconded by Miller. 501, Colas was opposed, motion carried. And that concludes the minutes.
All right, thank you. So you're basically here for color board and details, et cetera?
Mr. Chair, Clay Arell, architect. Now I'm on. Chair Miller, Clay Arell, architect for AB Design Studio, project architect. I don't know if staff is gonna, did you wanna? I don't know if Robert wanted to say anything or not.
Go ahead, Robert.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No worries. Chair Miller and board members, as noted, the project was approved by the PC on May 12th, or
Okay.
last month. And actually, the project is here just for PDA today. So that's what the applicant is seeking, and subsequently, they'd prepare the color board and the working drawings.
Okay.
Mr. Chair and board members, this is largely the same project that was before you. We haven't done a lot of changes to the plans. We do have some materials here. I don't use this program very often, so maybe you...
Oh, yeah, there's a cheat sheet right here, apparently.
So, whoops. Back. Sorry.
All right.
I'll get my stuff together here one of these days. So the house, these are, I mean, we don't have a lot of finishes going into the project. We have windows and siding and a garage door and a little bit of decking. So we have some Ipe decking, which we're all familiar with. Garage door and window frames are all going to be a dark bronze finished or black. We're probably going to go more towards the black, like an Arcadia or something like that, steel window look. And then we have the vertical siding for the addition, which we're looking at different materials right now. I think we're going to go with an ebonized wood. That'll be a dark color. And that was presented in that vein last time we were here. How do I zoom out? So this is probably the prominent elevation as you come up the driveway. I don't recall if you guys did a site visit or not. I know Planning Commission did. But this portion of the house here is existing, and here's the carport that we're converting into a garage and then adding a second story on. And of course, as I mentioned last time, we're playing with the architectural style, trying not to match exactly the house, but trying to do something a little bit that complementary. The owner's really excited about it, and we've been liking it too. And I don't have a lot more to present because it's you know, we're sort of heading into, we want to head into working drawings as soon as we can.
Okay, yep.
And
Well,
so
you're
I'll
here
zoom out and you guys can go into
So you're
questions.
just here for project design approval?
Project design approval. So we can move on to working drawings and engineering.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Did we have any public comment?
Ms. Gu, if you can switch to the staff presentation, please. Thank you. If you're attending the meeting via Zoom and you would like to provide public comment on this particular item on the agenda, you may do so by clicking the raise your hand icon, and that will notify staff that you would like to speak. You'll have 2 minutes. Ms. Gu, do we have any hands currently raised in Zoom?
I do not see any hands raised in Zoom currently.
Is there anyone attending the meeting in the meeting room that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Chair, we can turn it back to you.
All right, I'll bring it back to the board for questions and just go down the list. Board Member Ari Kalian, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brettlinger.
Yeah, just quickly on the vertical siding, the new vertical siding listed up here. Is that the ebonized wood siding you're talking about?
Yeah.
So, so is that just an engineered product, or is it? It's certainly not ebony.
So, no, it's not ebony. Mr. Chair, Board Member
Brentlinger.
Breitlinger, sorry, let me get that right. It's a process on wood that you basically burn it and it turns black,
Okay.
and then it protects itself. It actually
I remember now. Actually.
finishes, right, and
Yeah.
protects itself long term. We're looking at that as an option, but it's always a budget issue. So there are other materials that can get it to look like that, but
Yeah.
with
Okay.
different, like a rain screen and other things like that. But that's the direction we're heading.
So, and I was pointing that out because I remembered you mentioned it as probable. And so this is maybe a question of order here, which is if we're doing design review approval and this is a probable, or what are we actually approving here? And I don't know if anybody can answer that question.
Apologies, what was the question? Just so I-
Question was, if we're doing design approval at this stage and we were presented with siding, which is probably the siding, but not being presented as the siding, what are we actually approving?
So project design approval is not all the finished details yet.
Mhm.
That'll come at final, but it is size, bulk, and scale of the project. It's going through the findings as far as neighborhood compatibility of the design. So yes, design,
it.
but larger scale.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, thank you. Moving on to Board Member Klein. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
I don't have any questions either, so we'll move on to comments. Board Member Ari Kalian, do you have any comments, please?
No comments.
Okay, Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Okay, Board Member Klein, do you have any comments?
Just when you come back to have, the elevation was a little confusing as far as the materials. It looked like the garage door was lighter, and it's really a dark color. So it just helps my brain. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, can I see, now that you brought that up, can I see the elevation with the garage door? What is she talking about? Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it looks white.
It's just showing in a light color on here, but it's intended to be dark.
Okay, thank you. All right, that would be, I would follow up on that same comment that more
Yeah.
information about the garage door. Okay, thank you. With that being said, they're here for project design approval. Would someone like to craft a motion, please?
And Mr. Chair, just before you make your motion
Yeah.
for project design approval, if that is your discretion, one item that staff would like you to consider is whether this can return to the consent calendar for final approval, or if it should return to the full board, and as well, if you do make a motion for approval, to go through the neighborhood preservation findings and hillside findings. And
All right.
Ms. Gu, can you switch to the staff presentation so we have the findings on the screen?
I can try for a motion.
Very good. Go for it.
So I would like to make a motion for project design approval and return to consent for final approval with the following comment. The board generally believes the proposed project is aesthetically appropriate and compatible with the neighborhood. For neighborhood preservation findings, the proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood. The proposed building is designed with quality architectural details. The proposed project does not include the removal of or significantly impact any designated trees. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved. The project generally complies with the good neighborhood guidelines. And the development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside. Hillside design, slope block findings. The development, including the proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site and is designed to avoid visible scarring. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of the structures and the overall height of the structures.
That concludes the findings.
Thank you.
Board Member Arkelian, thank you.
All right, thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Here we go. Board Chair Miller,
Yes?
Board Member Killian,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
and Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
And we have a quorum. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can you announce the 10-day appeal period?
Yes, and there is a 10-day appeal period for this project. Thank you.
And then also, Mr. Chair, we're a little bit ahead of time,
Really?
believe it or not. So we'll need to recess until 3:40 to start
Okay.
the item 2.
All right, let's recess till 3:40. Thank you very much. we're on for item number 2. This is 101 Santa Cruz Boulevard. They're here. This is a pre-application consultation. The proposal to demolish the existing 1,095 square foot one-story residence and construct a new 2,105 square foot two-story single-unit residence with a 410 square foot attached garage. Project includes a new driveway, removal of an existing pepper tree and palm tree, and hardscape and landscape improvements. As currently proposed, staff hearing officer review and approval is required for front setback modification to allow the residence and garage to encroach into the required 20-foot front setback along Santa Cruz Boulevard, and a coastal development permit may be required. The proposed total of 2,425 square feet on a 5,863 square foot lot is 91% of the maximum required Florida lot area ratio. This is a one-time pre-application consultation. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Welcome. If you could introduce yourself, and is there any other announcements?
Yes, thank you, Chair Miller. Before the applicant gives their presentation, as it says in the project description and then in the footer, this is here for a one-time pre-application consultation.
Okay.
And I do want to turn it over to Mr. Dostalek. He is the case planner for the project, so
Okay.
he'll provide a little bit more information
background,
before
okay.
the presentation begins. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Chair Miller, board members. So we have a application here today, mostly for a demo rebuild for a corner lot at Shoreline and Santa Cruz Boulevard. And the application also includes requests for 2 modifications, one for a front setback modification and the other for an open yard modification. And I think you've had some experience with how to treat those here at the board in terms of not directly identifying direct support, but whether or not they're aesthetically appropriate to advance the design, for lack of a better term. And the open yard is, the modification is requested to the conforming areas. So I don't want to get things too complicated too quickly, but I did also want to note that we did have some contact with transportation planning beforehand today. So when the applicant team is walking through the plans, the garage setback right now I believe is at 12 something, but the transportation division would like to see that at 17 feet 6 inches from the garage to the property line. Just something to be keeping in mind from a design standpoint.
Quickly, can I ask why? Because normally, is it a 10 feet minimum, or is?
Usually it's 20. But,
Oh.
But in this instance, to account for some interesting right-of-way situations that's occurring right at this particular property boundary, and the plan for installing sidewalks isn't entirely clear at the moment. There have been discussions, but the ultimate fate of it hasn't been determined yet. So they're willing to bring it back a little bit to how do I go? Give a little wiggle room, I should say.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, if you'd like to introduce yourselves and show us your project, that'd be great.
Good afternoon, Tom Oxner, architect, Liz Hughes. I think you might need to turn it on.
Ms. Gu, can you please switch to the applicants?
Okay, I think that's better. Good afternoon, Tom Oxner, project architect, along with Liz Hughes, my associate. And this is the corner of Santa Cruz and Shoreline. And what we've got here, yeah, let's do some photos here. I think we can recognize this. This is a one-story masonry block building right at the corner. The site's an unusual one in that it's very long and narrow, but to start with, the building is a unreinforced, partially reinforced concrete block. So the ability to really utilize it, we had it tested, and it's just sporadically has steel in it. So it really needs to be redeveloped. And these are shots looking around the property. As you can see, there's some large palm trees. There's a large evergreen on the frontage of Shoreline, and it's narrow on the Shoreline frontage. Let's move now to that site plan. We'll take a look. okay, so this is a good diagram here. So in the upper right corner, see if I have control ID here. So this is this is what I would call a hardship lot in the sense that it's long and narrow. It has two frontages. It's below 6,000 square feet, which means it still has the applicable open yard that the larger parcels of 1250 would require. And so, as you can see, this box over here would represent the open yard, and if this were the usable area, it'd be about a 1,200 square foot usable area. So to design a structure in a conforming manner would, take a blockish kind of a look, and I think the purpose of the modification process is to try to look at, what can we do in the spirit of the regulations, but to achieve something maybe more desirable. This site plan here shows the existing footprint of the existing structure. As you can see, portions of it bleed out into the Santa Cruz front yard, and then the portions are in the rear yard setback. And it has some open areas. So what we'd like to do is to clean that up a little bit and not propose any encroachments into the rear yard, 6 foot, split the open yard into 2 areas, which gives good separation, and a private yard for sort of the back of the property away from shoreline, and good separation from the neighboring home. And then the other portion would be up front, where the public spaces of the house are oriented to take advantage of the desire of the owner, Victoria, to enjoy the pedestrian feeling of the front. And then the garage basically would be in the same location. It's actually pushed back a little bit from where it currently is, but we just heard transportation wants it back another 4 feet or so. So we can make that work. It's going to complicate the open yard to some degree, but it's kind of a push-pull. And then it's in terms of the second-story massing, the idea would be to bring the second-story massing just out over the entry to give it some definition. And I guess this mass is going back in. But the idea would be to create some undulation along this, the Santa Cruz, and really focus on the appearance of this from shoreline. This is a very predominant corner here, and especially with the beach access, we want to do something special. Maybe we go to the...
Neighborhood photos?
Yeah, let's go to the neighborhood photos. So the neighborhood photos, so these are photos of looking around the various vantage points from the property. This is on Santa Cruz, which means that it looks right down. The public beach access is to the south. So we've got a lot of pedestrian activity. And then this is directly here, too, is directly across the street. What's interesting is we looked closely at the neighborhood, and I've got 8 addresses right here that have development these are corner lots in the neighborhood that have development in the front yard setback, and many of them have modifications, and I've got the addresses right here. 2 of them are on Santa Cruz, and the rest of them are scattered around shoreline. So there's a definite precedence for this type of a relief from this narrow property. Let's go to the next page, the site plan, I think it is. So the site plan here, so what we've got in terms of the specific site is 2 adjacent homes. The home to the north here is a 1-story home. It's pushed back deeper into the property. The idea was to create some separation, maintain half the open yard here, and then push the 2nd story back to this position here. And then as far as the residents here, to respect the full setback. And then I saw a letter from them, and I think I need to study more the privacy issue with the windows along here. With regard to the letter from 111 Santa Cruz, the owner saw that letter. She was upset. She purchased this property about 1.5 years ago, and she was a bit reluctant because I explained to her the difficulties of it, and it's been a while. And she's a doctor in Canada and hasn't been able to get out here. So she has not been able to interact much with the neighbors, and I think that letter from this neighbor reflected that. Although that letter didn't have a phone number or an email, so it's still a difficult to contact them. I've had my name on the sign out here with my phone number. I haven't received any calls from them either. So I think there could be an opportunity to to actually get a hold of them, or they could try to get a hold of me as well. And then, so this garage mass, I guess, would be pushed back. The idea would be to position the second story back here and let a little bit of it come forward enough to really define a nice entry on the residence. Next slide. So this is the existing survey. What's interesting about this is that even though the parcel is very narrow and within the building envelope, it's only 20 feet wide, but as you can see from the property line out to the edge of curb, there's an additional 12 or 13 feet. So even though the property line is very close to the structure, we felt that undulation along the Santa Cruz side made sense. Even though transportation is wanting us to maintain a full distance from the proposed garage to the property line, which means we'll pull the existing garage is right here, so what they want us to do is push it back to here, which we can accommodate, and we'll see how that will affect the open yard. And this is a good place to show. So we have some significant trees. This is a large evergreen tree right here, and there's a palm tree here. This tree has to go or be... Okay, no, that's all right.
That was Mildred.
Next slide. And then the floor plan. So the way we've oriented the residents is to put the public spaces towards a shoreline. She really loves the pedestrian relationship there. And then the entry would be off of Santa Cruz and maintain this garage off Santa Cruz, and then get a media room and a bedroom down below. So the program would be split that way. And on the second floor plan, we've got a loft area which acts as sort of a little office space above the entry. So this represents about 150 square feet that would be into the front yard setback here, but it really helps the massing on the elevation. And then, of course, there'd be a master suite, which a covered terrace looking south, and then a third bedroom up on the second floor. And the house is, what's the square? I think it's 2,600 square feet.
It's only 19, I have it highlighted
Oh,
over
yeah,
here.
there we
The
go.
existing is 1976, and you're
Yeah.
proposing 3885.
Okay, so the
Wait a minute, I'm looking at
The residential living space is 2,015 square feet net with a 410 square foot net garage.
That sounds right. Yeah, so it's a
Okay.
modest home. And so the next slide, let's look at the elevations and see some massing here. So,
Oh, that's the
oh,
roof
the roof
plan.
plan, I think. Well, that's good. So this gives an idea of how the second story is positioned, to kind of right in the middle of the frontage, to gesture the second floor out, to celebrate the entry, and then we have the rest of the program back up against that northern, or the westerly property line, and the one-story element pulls the neighboring home. This is probably 40-some feet from the neighboring residence there. And then the one-story element with the covered first and second floor terraces, that front shoreline. Okay, we can move forward. So this would be the Santa Cruz elevation here, and then I think it could still work with this garage being pushed back. This is the living room space, and then this is the entry mass with the loft above it. The master bedroom with a covered terrace. This area out here is kind of the indoor-outdoor space that interacts with the public living space to create some shelter and a little bit of privacy, but still have the feeling of the shoreline experience there. And then the rear elevation, these I think are the windows that the neighbor was referring to, and I've got to study those then and look at what we can do. I think we can still keep this massing break here, even by pushing the garage back, and then this gives you an idea of what that evergreen it'll really create a nice sense of space in that, as that public area bleeds out onto the shoreline facade. Next slide, and then this is the shoreline. Nope, I'm sorry, this is, yep,
Yeah,
that's
but
the
it's-
shoreline elevation. So this would be that covered indoor-outdoor room. This is the master bedroom. It'll have that tree that screens it, which will be kind of nice. You'll have transparency and some privacy, but still get some views through it. Kitchen right here, and then this is the backside of the loft space on the second floor. So the width of the building is actually a little narrower than the existing building. I think the existing building is 35 feet 9, and we're at 32 feet 6. Next elevation.
I see this,
Am I doing it?
Go
now?
ahead, yeah.
Okay.
You can do it.
Okay, so this is the, this is the north elevation, we'll call it. So this is to the right of the garage as you're facing the house. This is the other half of the open space between the 111 Santa Cruz. So we've got a bedroom, a couple of bedroom windows up here. This is the entry loft there. This is the window out of the garage. And then this yard is kind of a nice supplement to the other open yard on the other side for use. But, okay, I think we have some 3D visuals too. This one here gives you an idea of the corner. I think the corner is important on this site, and it should have a bit of various massing, and it'd be really hard to do this if we had a conforming project to the modification. And I think, when you look at that street, there's already structures that are encroaching as far or further than this as well. And one thing that, again, this has is it's got that additional space between the curb and the property line that adds an additional sense of separation from the building to Santa Cruz. And then this is Santa Cruz looking back to towards the ocean. The entry element in the garage, we said could be pushed back, but those give us,
Zoom down, there's in front.
I'll go with that. It's also kind of nice not to just do contemporary homes on the mesa here. And then this is just another view of it. And I think the owner wanted me to really sort of express her concern with that letter from the neighbor, and she, this is her dream property, and she really is looking forward to moving forward with this. It's taken a long time, and the mod process has changed a little bit for us, so wasn't really expecting to have to design a home like this before we knew we had any kind of support for the mods we're asking for. So but we put our best foot forward, and I think that should do the presentation.
All right, thank you. I do believe we do have public comment. So I was given these, normally.
Stu, can you please switch to, sorry about that.
So I have public speakers. Let's see, Peggy O'Toole, are you here? If you'd like to come up and speak, and you have 2 minutes.
And if you'll just come up to the podium here, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Peggy O'Toole Lamb, owner of the property since 1977. So
You might want to
familiar.
push this out. There you
I'm
go.
taller than most. Anyways, I sold the property, my husband and I sold the property to my daughter about 3-4 years ago. The neighborhood, as Andrew Giuliana has put in his letter, has maintained a very mesa feel to it.
Yeah.
We have single-story homes on three sides of us, if you don't count the one that was put in 3 years back, plus the entire block is single-story all the way up to past the circle. And I hope you all have had a chance to actually look at the site, because this piece of property, as Mr. Arshner has said, is very narrow. And the building that we're talking about is 111 Santa Cruz right behind it. It's 900 square feet. Original was 1946, I believe. And that view that you saw from the north view, those two windows that he called bedroom windows look straight down into the Santa Cruz bedroom and bathroom and part of the front bedroom as well. So the privacy issue is huge at this point. Not to mention, when you ask for setback, you have setback encroachments. And I think they're even asking for some consideration that they don't have to follow our guidelines of our neighborhood. And I believe that that should be looked at carefully, because we've all been, I've been in front of the board many times, the building department, and I know how you guys are, not particularly you in particular, but since 1977, we couldn't do anything that was outside of the original plan. And even as recent as 6 years ago, we weren't able to put carport in because of a setback problem. So I don't feel that somebody coming from out of country or even in country, whatever, should come in and really sight unseen decide that they can encroach on the property as stated. And I agree with and understand the transportation department, because they're very much sticklers about keeping it set back from the property.
Mr. Chair, we're out of 2 minutes.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
can you wrap
sorry.
up?
So the final thing that I want to say, though, is that having a second story and encroaching setbacks is going to reduce daylight, airflow, which is important there, privacy, and obstruction of view, because there is right now an ocean view. Small as it is, we have an ocean view. And Mr. Giuliano has tried to be in touch with both Victoria and you, and has sent the letter, which I hope you read,
Okay,
and his address is there. So thank you all.
all right, thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, before we get into the next speaker slip, just because we have Zoom running in the background, I just wanted to remind anyone that's attending and would like to do oral public comment on this item that you can notify staff that you would like to speak by clicking the raise your hand icon, and that'll notify us. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. So Ms. Gu will circle back to that after the written court, after all of the public speakers today. So just keep your eyes out for hands being raised. Off to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is, sorry if I don't pronounce it, Rainey Stapleman.
And then, Mr. Chair, I believe there's 2 photos that were provided as part of public comment for this item. So, Mr. Oshner, you'll see that if you can just pull up the photos that are available.
In the public comment, or?
You should just see
images
2 photos
there?
right there. Perfect.
Okay.
And then, Ms. Gu, can you just switch to the applicant presentation so we can see those on the screen? Thanks. And you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank
whenever you're
you.
ready.
Thank you, Chair Miller and board members. My name is Raina Stapleman, and I live across the street at 101 Santa Cruz Boulevard. So I'm looking right now at this house that has been left derelict for over a year. Nothing has been done to it, hasn't even been cleaned up. It's an eyesore, and of course, this doesn't make any of the neighbors happy. But my concern, my husband and my concern, is the issue of stormwater runoff that we incur during very high rains. This was taken in January of 2017, and you can see that it's like a river that comes down. There were trash cans coming by. If you could go to the next photo. You can see that it crosses shoreline, and on the left, there's this white wall that the Gayons had put in through the city, that they can drop a wood piece in the center to stop water from taking over their back garden. So we do have really big runoff issues. My concern is that when this project is done, that the home site is not lifted, that there is not a higher, it's not higher from the street than what it is now, and that mitigation is done for specifically that, because we really don't want more water coming into that area that isn't being directed either, straight down the street, or, we don't need to lose, our front and, or, the back. And so that is my major concern, and I would request that the owner please do something about the mess that is there across the street. I've had to call the police. We had homeless people in there. That's not neighborly. So I would request that she please clean it up, get the garbage out, and take care of the weeds and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Gu, can you switch back to staff presentation, please?
Okay, does that conclude the public speaking?
Let's see, Ms. Gu, do we have anyone via Zoom?
We do have one person. Her name is Victoria
Okay, perfect.
Pantkeef.
Can you unmute her, and then she'll have 2 minutes.
She's live. Go ahead, Victoria. Ms. Pantkeef?
Yes, hi. Can you see me?
We
Can you
can,
hear?
we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. I purchased the property under my corporation in 2020, and I actually sent a letter to Mr. Orchard this morning in response to all those questions I had from the neighbor, Mr. Giuliano. Means I purchased the property in February 2020, and I had a tenant staying there for about a year, and he moved out on April the 1st, 2021. The reason I live in Canada, I was not able to get to the United States for the whole time because I am practicing physician here. It was very difficult with the pandemic to go there. It was a huge restrictions to move even for a short period of time. It would put me on a quarantine and I wouldn't be able to back to the practice. It was very hard for me to get there. I had a property manager who was looking after the place. I did my best I could. As soon as tenant came out the house, I started, I wanted to initiate the rebuild. I contacted the architect. It took a long time to get all this set up. It's not that I like all what's happening there, but I just had no chance to do whatever you were asking for. Mr. Giuliano mentioned his letter that he was in a contact with me a number of times. I have never heard of Mr. Giuliano even once. It was on 2 occasions. The first time I was called by police service in Santa Barbara, and they told me that one of the neighbors called the police because there was some sort of activities going on in the backyard. It means I honestly don't know, but there are lots of homeless people there, and I don't see what harm it caused them to sit and have a meal there and leave. It was nobody there, and it was the only one and the only time. The second communication from the neighborhood was about the dry tree, dead tree on the property. I asked the property manager to communicate to the person who brought up their issue that I am in a process of rebuilding, demolishing the place, and all this will be gone anyway. It means I did not want to do one thing at a time. I just wanted to demolish the whole place. And it's not my fault that it took so long. As I said, I initiated the process in July 2021. And I wish it was done by now, but it's still in a process and it's still not proved. And another thing, it's so sad to hear that the neighbor saying that somebody out of country who wants to do something in the neighborhood. And what is the problem with me being out of country?
So,
I don't understand.
Mr. Chair, apologies. We're well over 2 minutes. Is that your discretion to move forward?
I'm really, really sad
you
to
can
hear
wrap up.
the people around like so unfriendly.
Well,
And it makes me
Kathy,
feel like crying.
no, please don't.
Okay, I got you. Hold on. We have one other public comment that came in via email, and it's Joreen Lopez. She's the owner of 1506 Shoreline Drive next door to 101 Santa Cruz, and she writes to the board.
Ms. Gu, just acknowledging, and it's fine, and that
Okay.
was submitted to the board in advance of this
Yes.
hearing. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
And is there anyone else attending that would like to speak on this particular item? No? Okay. So, Mr. Chair, we can turn it back to you for
Okay,
questions.
I'll bring it back for questions. I want to cover something real quickly regarding the flooding. What is your, have you done your stormwater management study on that, what you're qualified for? Do you know
We
anything?
haven't even applied for a mod yet, but I mean, I'm sure we can get a stormwater to work in that area. I've
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, do you know what that is?
So,
Yeah, if you-
Mr. Chair, and just to clarify again, this is a one-time hearing, so
Yeah.
they have not been deemed complete yet.
Okay.
They will have to be reviewed by the city for compliance with the stormwater management plan.
Okay.
So that will go through the process, and that will need to be done before they can get any approvals from the staff hearing officer.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm bringing it back to the board for questions. Sorry, public speaking is complete. We have to move forward, sorry. Board Member Arakelian, do you have any questions, please?
I do. I understand it's an early stage at this time, but are there going to be landscape plans that are going to be presented in the future?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So, and, yeah, we'd love to get to that point, and we're excited to do that, but, yeah, there will be, I should have mentioned that, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
I do, and just a couple, really. I note that your FAR is about 91%, I think is how it's posted, and just wondered if you considered ways to get it down closer to 85 or something in that realm.
Yeah, that's a good comment. We've been trying to, the program, it's tough for an architect. We look at the program and how small we can make the rooms or whether we have to cut a room. So in looking at the neighboring area, I know that neighborhood pretty well, and there's significant number of properties that are in that 90 range, and that's why I went with around 90. But of course, that's up to the discretion and comments of your board, yeah.
Okay. And the only other question is whether you have plans for more neighborhood outreach or story polls or anything to engage the neighborhood further.
Absolutely. Usually, I do rely on some key person in the neighborhood to help me pull people together. In this case, because of a number of things that hasn't fallen into that position yet. And I think the number one is because of the modification process being kind of changed around, where we need to have something to put in the pipeline in order to get some support on that. But yeah, no, I'm very aware of the good neighborhood policy, and so is my client. It's been a little difficult to enact that in this particular case, especially when I have been relying on people contacting me during COVID, and I keep half-size sets available for anyone, and I'll give them time in my office and go over it with them. You know, we've never been contacted by anyone. I've had a phone number on that sign out there, even the letter that came in, no phone number, no email. It's difficult now to get a hold of people. It's easy to get a hold of me.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, can you talk about the height compared to the neighbors? Just if you've looked at all of that.
Yeah, what are we 24 feet. So I would say that that's in the range of the neighborhood. I would say that that's right, the median, if I had to, from what I've seen.
Great. And then also the FAR, you mentioned median is about 90.
91 at the moment, yeah.
For the neighborhood, though, it's about 90, you'd say, for around.
Right. We've done many studies in that area, and I can pull them up from other projects, but I know where it trends, and that's about where it trends.
Great. And then could you speak to the window locations along the neighboring property?
Yes, so the windows, let's go to the north elevation. Well, let's start with this one. So yes, so those windows there, those are probably too aggressive and need to be looked at more closely. I need to probably do a better evaluation of the neighboring property. Those bedrooms do need egress windows, so they can't get too much smaller, but I'm sure that something can be done to help with the privacy issue on that elevation. And then if we could go to the north elevation. So these windows look back to 111 Santa Cruz, and those windows are probably close to 50 feet from that structure. So I'm not sure about the comment of those looking down into the yard, but we can always work on I'll look at it more closely and see if there is a real sensitivity there.
Yeah, and on the other elevation, is there any plant material at the property line there, or fencing, or what's proposed?
So We propose with the style of the architecture of Mediterranean feel and to play off the larger palms that exist out there. And what's really fun is the amount of space between the house and the edge of right-of-way and to do something. And I think what we'll do is try to see if there's any traction with Public Works to do some landscaping in that area. That would really help with the building, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And then that north property line though, that looks like there's an existing, or the,
Yeah,
West, I guess.
and that's a great opportunity. I need to explore with Victoria and see kind of how her intention might be to use that area. But certainly, screening along the perimeter, I think, is number one. And then to see what type of a use, it being off the garage, it might want to be a little bit more utilitarian. But that's an opportunity there that should be looked at and hardscaped and landscaped there.
great. And then my last question is I think we got interrupted. Can you point out any existing trees to be removed?
Yeah, so right there, we've got a big palm tree. I think we have a photo of that too. That's gonna have to go.
So this is a large palm tree that's located very close to the existing entry of the building. I'll pull up the photo. And then here, we also have a small pepper tree that's close to the existing driveway. So I'm gonna go to the... Here's that palm tree that's close to the existing building footprint. And let's see, I'm not sure if we have a good one of the pepper tree. Oh, here. It doesn't want me to do this.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I know what a pepper looks like.
yeah.
It's invasive. It's okay. That's all for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. What are the ceiling heights for the first and second floor?
The ceiling height at the first floor is 10 feet, I believe, and the second floor is 8.6.
Okay. And what is the reason for the little cupola on the garage roof?
Oh, let's go to that Santa Cruz elevation. Let's see. Oh, it just sort of balanced off the vertical elements across that facade, I thought. But it was just going to be for ventilation and for architectural accent.
Okay. I think those are my only questions. All right, those are my only questions. I'll bring it back to the board for comments. Board Member Art Kaleen, do you have any comments, please?
I do. I have a few.
If I may,
Yes.
before you jump into the comments.
Sure.
And just a reminder, I think Pilar may have mentioned this, but the comments are non-binding. And so this is a one-time concept review, and it helps the applicant with some early feedback in proceeding to develop an application.
So when we make a motion, what kind of a motion are we supposed to make?
So no motion.
Okay, so it's motionless.
Except one thing that I would add is that you've seen the design and you're aware of the modifications that are being proposed.
Yeah.
So please comment all over on the design.
Okay.
And if you can include remarks on whether or not the modifications are aesthetically appropriate to sort of achieve a sensible design.
Okay.
Not necessarily direct support or non-support, but I think you are kind of familiar with how to
Okay.
finesse those comments.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I believe the front setback modification that's being requested is aesthetically appropriate, but I understand from past agenda items that there are properties along shoreline that exceed the 85%, FAR. I would just request, just due to this particular lot in comparison to others in this neighborhood, that if the applicant can study going closer to the 85% in some way. In terms of the open yard, I've been looking at the site plan. I'm referencing 12 SP of our guidelines about the garage. I'm looking at, let's see what page on the plans. I'm on A7.1. Last page. I mean, from my review and looking at the plans, I believe the garage is, placed, it's pretty prominent on the street, and I would suggest if the garage can be tucked back. I understand I appreciate you presenting some options in the presentation if on moving some suggestions around the second story, but for now, I'm currently thinking the garage, this predominant from street view, is not aesthetically appropriate, and if that can just be tucked back. Other comments? I'm on, Board Member Klein touched upon this slightly. I'm on sheet A6.1 on the west elevation. And similar to the, speaking upon the applicant's comments on that, I would just, ask that this elevation is kind of more articulated and harmonious with the other elevations. I believe the other elevations are very appropriate with architectural style and are done very well with how the massing is presented. I would just ask, for this elevation to just be a little bit more studied, which seems like you're aware of. Aside from that, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Brentlier, do you have any comments, please?
I do, thank you. Mr. Oshner, given what we've heard from the neighbors about the current state of the property, this looks like a great improvement over what's there now. So, first statement. So, in terms of the bulk and scale of it, I think that by stepping back the second story as you have done it, it helps to make the bulk and the massing more acceptable. I think perhaps I'd encourage you to look at still kind of screwing down the FAR somehow to because it's a tough site still. As you've mentioned, it's pretty narrow. So I think the impact of the higher FAR is felt a little more. And given that it looks like you're going to push back the garage by 4.5, 5 feet, that may be a good opportunity as well to look at that upper bedroom view down to the property on, I guess it's the north side. The garage itself may help in screening that, for instance. And I would agree with Mr. Arkelian that the west side could benefit from some articulation, and that as well, I think, would be appreciated by the owners on that side. But otherwise, it's because it is 2 stories there. That upper level in particular is very visible. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. The one last thing, and I'll probably steal this from the chairman, is that the 10-foot first story plate, you might be able to play with that as well to reduce some of the profile, and even even perhaps stepping it down on one side of the house rather than the whole thing. But that's trickier to do than it is just to say that. But I would agree with the comments made that, architecturally, I think it fits the guidelines, and I think there's a lot of interesting detail on this that is appreciated.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Generally, I agree with Board Member Bretlinger. I think that it's an aesthetic improvement to the area. I think the mass, bulk, and scale fits within the findings aesthetically. I would also support a decrease in FAR a bit. Just being sensitive to the neighbors in any way you can. Study the window locations and privacy screening with landscape. In general, aesthetically support the front setback mod and the open yard modification as well. And none of the trees that you're removing are significant, so that's fine as well. I look forward to seeing the additional trees you add.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, I would nix that little cupola above the garage. That's just too much. So I have several comments. I have paper. I am so sorry. I did it on paper. Please forgive me. But I was looking at your floor plan, and I wanted to kind of go through a couple of
Chair
things.
Miller,
Yes.
can you please turn on your microphone?
No. It is on. It was on.
Can you pull it closer? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So anyway, a couple things I wanted to point out. First of all, I love it Spanish Colonial. That's what we do here. It's just wonderful that you're doing that. So anyway, the one elevation, I don't know which elevation it is. It's the east elevation, if we can go to the east elevation. Is that east? Okay, not the east. The one this way.
Shoreline,
Sure. No, not that one, the other one.
the north elevation.
There, oh, it's covered. So you have a funny little pop-out with the fireplace here that I would take out. Just have it down straight, and then the wall behind it just straight down. Because that little pop-out actually implies, what those were meant for was that you had a fireplace space underneath, and that accommodated it. But to pull it all the way back like that is really weird, so I would just make that a straight wall in the back, behind the fireplace. Also, your balcony, we have a guideline that the balcony, your upstairs deck balcony, be 15 feet away from the property line. So I can't support the location of the second-story balcony, but I thought maybe what you could do is move it around to the front, somehow do something and put a balcony here, so it literally is away from the neighborhoods, but you're out in the street, so you're not, peering down in some privacy issues. I also was thinking, the other thing you could do is take this large window out and put it over here, so that their primary window, so that's the bed wall, so that takes out that, something to study in terms of windows looking down into the neighbor. Also, I would support your plate height for your first floor being 9 feet and your second floor being 8 feet, just because of the compaction of the property. I think that would be, and if you can squish your house to 85%, that's a guideline. I'm not saying you have to be at 85, but if you can kind of get closer to that number. And where the areas I thought that you could do it is kind of reduce this area here. I noticed on your roof plan here, you can actually balance this one and this one, pulling that one back. And I also agree with the board about pulling the garage back, and I don't know how that challenges your open yard. But I think if you did all those areas, I think we could really be supportive of all your modifications. So those are my comments. And that's all I have to say. Oh, I do have a question. Is this a three-way fireplace? Is that what that is? It is. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, that to me is a little awkward too, where that's located with the balcony. But I think if you move the balcony to the other side, you might be able to really work with that. So.
How does your board feel about screening the balcony? So if there was a solid wall that separated the balcony from the neighbor's property?
Now, that's a good, I would like to see you study it first before we because I think that's kind of a critical privacy issue here. And I think screening it with a wall, you can bring that back as an argument. So.
I think it goes both ways. It would make it more private, but by having it open, it reduces the massing of the building.
Right.
So.
Good point.
I do also just want to point out that it's overlooking the driveway of the neighboring residence. It's not adjacent to their house looking down on.
Sure. So what I'm saying, these are comments, so you can take our comments and then do what you need to do and bring it back and say, this is what we've, what we decided to do or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
If that wraps up your comments, then this concludes the item.
Okay, thank you, and good luck. Oh, and there's one more thing I wanted to say about, the owner said something, and I just want to understand, I don't think we're prejudiced against the fact that she's not living in our country. I think what the argument was because she's living outside the country, she should get preferential treatment. That was the argument, but I don't want to touch it because, I'm an architect too. I have clients mad at me because I'm not getting my projects done on time, so I totally sympathize. I understand it completely, so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Chair, can I step out 2 seconds?
Yeah. You want me to call him?
Just to pressure my, sorry.
Google my name and it's there too.
Go ahead. I'm just gonna pull up the other.
Right. Okay, if you could please take your conversation outside, that'd be great. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. If you're, we're up for 2339? Edgewater, yeah, are you part, if you want to come forward, that'd be great.
I'm a landscape architect for the
Okay.
so that's why I walked up to the previous one. I thought I was late.
Oh. Yeah, you can grab one of those. Okay, we want to move on to item number 3. This is 2339. This is a new item for concept review. Let me read into the record. It's the proposal to demolish the existing 1,976 square foot, 2-story, single-unit residence, including a 200 square foot garage, and construct a new 3,885 square foot, 2-story, single-unit residence, and a detached accessory building comprised of a 510 square foot garage and 458 square foot accessory dwelling unit, ADU above. Project includes a pool, patios, new pergola, driveway drainage, hardscape, and landscape improvements. Project will address violations outlined in ENF 2018-00339 by removing an unpermitted retaining wall and fill grading. The proposed total of 4,803 square feet on a 33,945 square foot lot is 99% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Planning Commission review and approval is required for a coastal development permit. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings in Hillside Design District and slope lot findings will be required when the project is reviewed by the project design approval, reviewed for project design approval. All right, thank you, welcome. Do we have
Thank
any
you.
announcements?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as it says in the header and footer, this project is here for a concept review.
Okay.
The case planner, Tony Bauman, is here if you have any questions throughout, but it's here for just its first concept review.
Okay, Tony, do you have anything you need to say, or do you just want to?
I'll be standing by for questions. Do you want me to sit up there? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, did we get any public comment? Or wait, don't do public comment. You present your projects, and then we'll do public comment.
Okay, thank you. This
Yeah.
is Liz Hughes for the, representing Tom Oxner Architects. On behalf of the owner, Kurt Custard. Sorry, I hope you guys can understand me with this mask here. And Rob, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Robert Andrew Fowler, landscape architect.
And Tom is also here. I'll be taking care of the presentation for this project. The proposed project is a new single-family residence. It's 2 stories located along Edgewater Way. The existing building that's there right now is a two-story, single-family residence, as well as a detached, small one-car garage that's located closer to the street frontage. The proposed project also includes a detached garage with an ADU above, as well as site improvements, a pool, and covered shade structure on the back of the property. Here are a couple of views along Edgewater Way. We have kind of a unique site on this this stretch of the road because the only street frontage is really the driveway along here, as well as the neighboring property. So what you see from the street for the neighboring parcel is this gate, and at our property, it's just an open driveway right now as you drive down. The buildings are then located closer to the bluff edge and observe the bluff edge setback. Farther down the street, we have existing two-story structures that are located closer to Edgewater Way. And then a couple of these other photos are just demonstrating some of the neighborhood characteristics. There are a lot of existing, either both older residences, new residences, kind of an eclectic neighborhood design of contemporary, mid-century, coastal, cottage, some Mediterranean, so there's a little bit of everything in this neighborhood. We took a couple of aerial views of the property to get a sense of views either to the site or from the beach below. I'm just going to kind of zoom in on this if I can. This is a view from the bluff edge, kind of hovering above, looking towards the existing residence, and then this is the new residence that was built next door. As you can see, there really isn't any visibility from Edgewater Way to the main portion of the parcel. So any part of the main house is not going to be visible by the public at all. This view here is taken from about 50 feet up off of the beach. So even this existing house, when you're standing on the beach, you cannot see it. And we're proposing to push the new residence about 40 feet further back than where this is located. This view here is from the neighboring residence, kind of looking over the property. And you can see how pulling this house back further is going to create more views through the property to the ocean for the neighbors. There's also this existing clump of a large hedge here, which is about the location where we're proposing to put the shade structure for the pool. So that's a one-story structure and it won't obstruct any views further than what's already on the property. These are just some other views, so I'm gonna skip forward. Just some history on this particular lot. We've come here under a previous owner to present a different version of the design. This version included the existing two-story residence with an addition, and it's located in the bluff setback, so we had to observe all of the substantial redevelopment, yeah, guidelines about not touching 50% of the structure. So that's what this previous design was, and it received favorable comments from the board. It features a third-story deck. You can also see how it's pushed farther towards the bluff edge here.
Wasn't it Brian Cornell? Was this Cornell?
We actually did this for a different owner. Yeah. So we've had a lot of time to kind of get familiar with the constraints of this specific property. And the plans that we've developed to bring here today are actually maybe a little bit further developed than what we would normally bring into a conceptual review, because we've been working through the CDP process with our civil engineer, landscape architect, and working together with the owner to kind of dial in their dream design for this property. These are just a couple of the exterior materials and some concept images. I can come back to this later. The existing survey for the property. There's that one-car garage and the two-story residence. And then you can see how it's located inside the bluff edge. Here are the civil plans. I'm just going to kind of buzz through this real quick because I don't want to take up too much time, but What I did want to point out was that we are doing some remediation along the bluff edge to kind of bring back the historical grading along that, and Rob will talk about planting in that area. We're also providing for drainage to be diverted to this pump here, which will be conducted to the front of the property and then connect to the city stormwater system, so that there's no site drainage that's really being directed over the bluff edge here. Since I'll go to our site plan because I think that's coming up next. Oh, Rob's plan, which I'll skip over and let him take care of at the end if he has time. And then our site plan here, I just wanted to point out this other site characteristic. There's kind of a ravine that exists here between this property and the neighboring property. So there's really a lot of privacy along this edge of the site. On the other edge, you have that the new construction of the neighbor's property. But at the closest point between our house and the neighbor's house, it's 40 feet. So here on the site, we have the proposed tandem garage with an ADU above. The reason why we proposed this was because the bluff following the new bluff edge setback, or the existing bluff edge setback for the new construction, it kind of pushed our building envelope further back into the site. And we felt really strongly about having kind of a meandering pathway that leads you into this courtyard, which would have some, landscaping around the front residence, and not really getting that feeling of like, when you come down this driveway, you're just staring at a garage door. So that was the concept of the site design, was to create this courtyard element here, flanked by these two buildings. The garage with the ADU above is about 58 feet from the property line and about 69 feet to the street edge there. And then this just also demonstrates kind of some of the hardscape that we have going along. The building really opens up to those views in the back. Oh, yeah, sure. This is the front elevation of the main house as you enter that drive court, and this is the view facing the south towards the ocean. So it really opens up to the back with, glass for the views. On the right-hand side here, the west side, we have a one-story portion, which is the living room, which is meant to just be open to the landscape, kind of like a glass indoor-outdoor feel. And this is the area that is the most private of the site, along the easterly face where there's the existing neighbor. We provided just smaller openings, especially on the second floor, so that it's not looking onto their property. There's a small, and I also do want to mention that on their design, they do have two balconies that look onto this portion of the site as well, where we have this small balcony, but it's got a solid guardrail and it's not really looking onto that part of their property. Do I have time left?
No, I was just
I
noticing
know.
the 15-minute
Yeah,
timer.
pardon my interruption. You're at about 9 minutes now, so of 15 minutes.
Okay, so I have a few more minutes here. Okay, I'll let Rob take
Mr.
over here soon.
There's a timer there. You guys should help. Anyway, I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is our floor plan, very open floor plan. The idea was to walk in the front door and have these expansive views out to the ocean. Lots of overhangs along this side to protect from the sun, and also create some decks on the upper level. On the second floor, just a couple of bedrooms, and this is that deck along that side. Again, the building is rotated now, and we worked very closely with the owner to get like the precise rotation of the project, kind of utilize how this was going, so that we're providing privacy from this neighbor, from these decks. So the decks and the building is really oriented towards the view and tries to be respectful of the neighbor and their views, both of the property and through the property to the ocean. We have a flat roof for this property with eaves, and the owner is very conscious about sustainability. A lot of this project was kind of geared towards having a full PV system to provide all the electricity for the site, the hydro system for the pool, as well as an atmospheric generator to provide water. So this flat roof area accommodates a lot of the systems that they want to put in place for sustainable reasons. This is the garage and ADU here. The garage is 510 square feet, and then the ADU is about 480 square feet. It's a single bedroom ADU. Again, flat roof, which we will also have photovoltaics. That main house view of the exterior elevation, part of the design that we were trying to capture here was having, these planes of stone continuing through the project, kind of leading to the view, and then intermittent with this charred wood siding, which we felt was really appropriate for the site because it doesn't have some of the issues in terms of maintenance and durability that natural wood sometimes does. We also did want to incorporate some natural wood into the project, and you'll see that in the 3D views. We have it on the eaves, and that's to kind of capture some of the reflected light from the sunsets and bring it into the project. On this view, I know this cabana or this shade structure kind of looks like it's connected to the main house. This is the balcony beyond, so it's actually separated by a few feet. I just wanted to point that out so there's no confusion. It's a separate structure, and it's beyond that deck there. This is the west elevation that's facing that large existing tree on the west side and that existing ravine, so it's more private along this edge. And then here are the views of the ADU. So this is kind of what you'll see when you come into the property, the garage below with the ADU above, and then this is as you kind of drive down the driveway, seeing these windows, and then this is the side that's facing the neighboring property here with some just smaller punched openings to respect the privacy of the neighbors. And then just a couple of 3D views here so you can get a feel for the project. Kind of coming into the site with the ADU on the right-hand side of the driveway. I should let Rob speak now, but we can come back to the 3D views later. But a couple of 3D views here of the property. And I also just did want to point out that the owner it was very important for them to have a high ceiling on the first floor. We know that's kind of an unusual request, but we really have been working a lot with them to try and work out their dream design here. And we felt that because the property is located so remote from the street and didn't really have any visibility or, sight line issues, that it might be appropriate for this particular property just because it's a unique situation that's not visible from other areas. Go ahead, Rob, take it away.
So I need you to kind of.
Yeah,
go
I'll
into
go
my
back to the landscape
drawings,
plans for
please.
you.
And I will be really brief and quick, and I know there's no forum for this, but it's one of the pictures that Liz did show. This is basically the existing driveway that you see that's out there now, if you could put that up there. It's pretty much a straight little runway shot, and so we went, even though we kind of had tight room, we went, made a good effort to try to meander the driveway and make it more organic. All the paving that we're proposing on the driveway is to be permeable paving. If you see also, I have, there's entry gates that we were showing. That was kind of an early version that I created, and so the house, it basically is meant to kind of tie into the house. So the house is kind of evolved with some of the materials, so we will make those match, but it's meant to be low profile. It's meant to have a pedestrian entrance. So do you have the ability to point with that, Liz, on or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can kind of see kind of the flavor where we're going with that. You can see how the driveway meanders, and you see a pedestrian link that kind of comes off the street and invites you into the front door. Thank you. There are very few you see some X's there. There's some kind of non-impressive existing trees that we are removing. There's one oak up near the front that we're keeping. We actually have we have like 3 very substantial Monterey pine and a couple Monterey cypress that we are keeping. In fact, the Monterey pine is really what that deck on the west side that you see up there, that's kind of a treetop deck, and as Liz mentioned, it kind of adjoins the ravine. It provides kind of a whole nother little perspective of views and looking down onto 1,000 steps, so that's kind of nice. So the other thing that was a big part of this project was you can see the setback line, and so all the hardscape kind of dances along that setback line, and we're trying to maximize the pool area and the outdoor kitchen, but also what was the owners have children, and so our choices for landscaping are limited. So within, you see kind of a large synthetic turf lawn area, and so our guidelines are that we're not allowed to have any water and add any weight within that setback line. And so this was one of our choices here to basically provide a functional, usable surface for a family. And this was actually an issue that we covered the first time on the first project and that they approved. As far as the bluff itself, what we have done, the bluff is being restored, the grades are being recontoured, regraded, and then what is being proposed is all native landscaping. So the whole intent is to restore the bluff and kind of maintain that or bring back that character that was once there. So that's about anything that you want to add to that, Tom? Okay.
Okay, Jarrett, did you want to say anything?
Nope. No, I can answer questions later if you have something, but no.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, I'll bring it back. Did we get any public comment?
Ms. Gu, can you please turn to?
Did you fill out a form? Or you could, okay.
And so before we move to in-person public comment or written public comment, we'd like to announce if anyone is attending on Zoom and would like to make public comment on this item, they can do so by selecting the raise your hand icon. And Ms. Gu will look out for that.
Okay.
And so in the meantime, we can turn to the other public comment.
All right, great. Ms. Kara Hack, if that's correct, if you'd like to come up and speak, you have 2 minutes.
Ready?
Yeah, right here at the podium.
Hi, I'm Carol Hack. I reside at 2327 and 2337 Edgewater, which is that new house that's to the east of this project. And I also own the easement rights where they are planning to put the driveway in. So we are just completing our house, and we don't even have a certificate of occupancy yet. So we are the most
Impacted.
compatible construction. Regarding the mass, we were initially approved with a single-family design board for about a 3,600 square foot house, only to have that rescinded and told by the planning we had to move our house back 88 feet. And that is why the shape of our house goes back like this. And I can show you in that picture. And that was per the 75-year setback stability line. Upon resubmission to the Single Family Design Board, the stated that our previously permitted house size was too big for the area of the mesa. We were finally approved for a 3,469 square foot house, which was an 82% FAR of one lot, and that second lot, which is the angle, is basically a non-buildable lot, so there was a 0% FAR for that lot. Our double lot is about 0.88 acres and therefore similar to this project. The applicant's request is for about a 3,885 square foot house, which is obviously considerably larger than what we were told is normal for the area and that we had to conform to. In addition, the applicant's ADU adds to the mass and bulk of the building on the pad. With regards to the bulk and in consideration to our neighbors, our plate height was also brought down after taking 6 years for our permit process. With us being cooperative at each step, our house was whittled down in size to height to fit the neighborhood. It was finally determined that a 24-foot high house with no foundation elevation and a 3,469 square foot house was compatible with the neighborhood. This applicant's lot.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you for your comment. If you could just wrap up.
Okay. This applicant's lot is already at least a foot higher than ours, plus it appears there are steps up to the house on an elevated foundation of 2 feet. This, combined with the 29-foot height, would make a 32-foot high structure next to our 24-foot high structure. So this seems, and ours was all based on, just like I said, we don't even have a permit yet. This means by definition, this applicant does not seem compatible with the area. With regard to balconies, they do have one wrapping around the master,
Okay.
overlooking what we
Try to
were
wrap up,
forced to
too.
keep open. Okay, so then the one thing I have a major concern with is we have a 90-foot setback that is documented on our project that includes through this easement. And I do not understand and have been trying to get and was told to talk to Planning Commission why the setback on this property, which was established to be 90 feet when we did our
Miss,
project,
I'm
is
sorry,
only
the time is
38
up.
feet.
Okay. All right.
Sorry?
So,
Okay, we
since
do-
ours is focused on aesthetics, that's an issue for us.
Yes, that's why I
So-
didn't approach that project till the end, but we seem to get wrapped up with other things.
Okay, we do-
So I do have extreme concern that
Okay.
this is totally different than what we were
Got it. I
set
got it.
to. Okay.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
And I'm concerned
got it.
about where the
We-
pool flows into that triangle, which again
Okay.
is our
We
property.
do have one more person on
Thank you.
Zoom
Thank you.
to speak. Her name is Alexandra Hack. Ms. Hack?
Hello, my name is, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Haas. I'm the owner of 2327 Edgewater Way. I have extreme concerns with the pool drainage draining precisely on our property. That's completely illegal. There's the mass, aside from really the mass, the additional bulk, which is not really conforming to like the state of this community. And again, just reiterating Carol's point, there are observation decks or balconies that will look directly into our backyard and our adjacent neighbor's backyard. So I really just urge you to consider these things within the design and during your review tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Was that it?
Yes, that's the end of our public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring it back to the board for questions. So I'll bring it back to Board Member Ari Killian. Do you have any questions, please?
I do. Can you confirm the first and story plate heights?
Yeah, the first floor ceiling is at 12 feet. And the second story is at 10 feet.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, thank you. You may have touched on this in the earlier explanation, but what are the violations outlined in ENF 2018 that are mentioned in here?
Chair Miller, Board Member Brentlinger, the violations that are there were from a previous property owner who did unpermitted grading out towards the bluff edge. So he had stacked up a couple of railroad ties and put some fill behind those to basically expand his yard area. So we are remediating that as part of this project, removing those and bringing this back to the natural slope that's out there.
I see. Okay, and that's part of the bluff remediation that Robert talked about. So that's essentially a regrading and a planting of native species, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Then,
Actually, let me add to that too.
Sure.
The other thing that we are doing out there, and it was just mentioned, was, and I failed to mention, was we're collecting all the drainage that's going on back there, and that is being pumped back to the street. So part of our remediation is that we can't add weight to the bluff and within the setback. So all that water, that whole synthetic turf area, all that water's been civilly engineered and being collected and then brought back, pumped back to the street. So that won't be an
Great,
issue,
great.
which was just mentioned. So that's, I just wanted to explain that properly.
Yeah, no, I saw the pump location down there. And then lastly, can you tell me what that easement is that's on A-1.2?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
Chair,
heavy shaded area?
Chair Miller, Board Member Brentlinger, there's a number of easements out there. We've got all these long, skinny parts of parcels that go from the street down towards the bluff. And we've got a legally binding agreement with the Hacks who own the adjacent property. We're doing a lot line adjustment with them. That's basically, it's gonna clean all that up and remove easements and just put things on people's actual properties rather than there being easements over adjacent properties. So that map is actually ready to submit, and we'll be turning that in within the next week or two.
Okay, when, do you know when that would be finalized, or best guess, I guess?
Ask the city staff. We hope sooner than later. It's a really simple, it doesn't create any issues. There's not going to be environmental review of it. There's no development associated with it.
Okay.
It's not creating developable area or parcels where there aren't already. So we expect it to go through pretty smoothly without any issues. And my experience processing similar projects through the city, the discretionary portion of the project goes in about 8 months.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, was that it?
That's
Okay.
it.
Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, I think you ran out of time. Could you quickly go through the materials?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so here are the materials for the project. We have two primary wall materials, a stone tile that's like a hammered limestone, and then we have a siding that's this charred-wood siding. I actually have a sample here that I can show you. And then the underside of the eaves is a more natural ipe wood, kind of like this. And then we have the dark bronze aluminum at the fascia and in the doors and windows. We're also proposing a glass guardrail along the south side. We're looking into an anti-reflective coating for the glass so that glare and reflection isn't an issue from this property, even though, you know, it's not visible from the beach below. We're taking into consideration any reflection kind of created farther out in the water. So we wanted to propose this material since we thought it was compatible with the design.
Great, thank you. And could you just walk through the deck locations and the neighboring properties and how you looked at that?
Okay, this is the second floor here. I'll go back to the site plan after this, but the views are primarily oriented to the southwest. The Hacks property is over here, so this portion of the building where we don't have very many decks, we do have this small deck here off of the bathroom, but that's primarily going to be used kind of as a privacy garden with potted plants and that kind of stuff. They're not going to be sitting out on that balcony looking at views. This is really the area that they would be utilizing for, sitting and looking out over the ocean. On this portion of the site, this is where that ravine is over here, and we also have that large existing Monterey pine and lots of existing landscaping that kind of shields this portion of the site from any views from the neighbors. So this deck is probably the most private part of that upper area, and I'll just kind of go back to the site plan here to show you. The decks are located here on the second floor, and then they kind of wrap around to about here.
Great, thank you. And then I know you quickly touched on the stormwater you're pumping, it seems like, towards the street. Could you, I know it's early on, but go through some of the stormwater stuff of what you're thinking for capture, treatment, or any of that?
Well, we actually worked with, we've had a civil engineer from the very beginning of this, so all water we were preventing any water from going over the edge of the bluff was the intent. So there's a series of drains basically that collect water all along the whole length of that. All the paving is predominantly permeable throughout. And so that's really, in essence, we just have a lot of permeable paving and then collecting it and pumping it back to the street.
Are you pumping it into a dry well or somewhere?
There's
Yes,
actually
chambers.
a storage, the chambers
Yeah.
up underneath the driveway, and there's some filtration going on here before it connects to the stormwater system.
We actually had a retention basin up there and we just decided to took up too much room, so we decided to bury it so that it was not visible.
Great. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think I do for you. Ms. Hack I know this is not our purview, but I think this is important to speak into the record in terms of the easement agreement. Does the Hacks, do you agree with it? Is there some kind of, or is it a unilateral thing, or how does that work? Just so.
Chair Miller, it's a bilateral agreement between the Hacks and our client. They've both signed on to it. It's recorded.
So-
Both their attorneys negotiated it with
Okay.
each other. So
So
yeah,
it was
we're all
both.
obligated by the agreement.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. Okay.
Chair Miller?
Yeah,
I have two
sure.
more questions. Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Do you happen to have the square footage of all the second floor decks by chance?
I don't, actually. I don't have it.
Okay, and then are there any other properties in the neighborhood where that kind of inspired you to use this charred siding?
It was more, the owner was very intrigued by this material, and the reason why was because he really wanted to bring wood into the project, but then the maintenance of wood in a marine environment was concerning for him, so he was looking into sustainable alternatives to wood, and that's what really started this conversation about using the charred siding.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for comments. You have the floor.
Sure. So I believe the placement of the structure of this proposed structure is aesthetically appropriate. Believe the permeable paving that's suggested is also aesthetically appropriate as well. So I drove by the site. I understand where it's placed. I'm struggling with the charred siding in terms of a neighborhood compatibility. I understand other projects on the board that have come to the board with charred siding, and I'm just based on the amount, particularly on the second floor. I would just suggest maybe an alternate material, or maybe study a reduction, or I am in support of the limestone, using that earth tone limestone veneer. In terms of the roof, so I'm seeing, I believe a combination of a pitched roof and a flat roof should be studied in terms of neighborhood compatibility. Let's see, what else? In terms of the FAR, I believe there needs to be a reduction of that, for that to be studied. And yeah, I would like for you to come back with some details about the second floor deck, how the square footage of that. I had one more comment, but it just flew out of my head. May
Okay.
come back.
All right, sure. Okay, Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I would echo Mr. Arkalian's comments about the FAR and just see what you can do to shrink that perhaps. Right now it's listed at 100%, although that includes an ADU, so I don't know what really our new standard is absent the ADU. If I do my back of the envelope calculations, it's still slightly over 90%.
Yeah, we kind of designed the project to about 90% FAR, and this has been going on for a while, that we've been going through the CDP process.
Yeah.
So we had designed it kind of with the 90% in mind to be respectful of the, neighborhood compatibility. And then just recently got kicked into including that ADU as
Uh-huh.
part of that FAR, and that increased our FAR for the site.
Yeah, so, so I don't think it needs, my suggestion would be to look at some reduction in the FAR, but understanding that the rules are a bit in flux. I do think that the materials are all high quality. I have a great appreciation for the approach to the drainage, which sounds like it's a critical element of all of this. So appreciate that approach, and particularly the underground retention. That's not often seen on a single-family residence. So that's an interesting innovation. Then I think those are my comments, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I appreciate the environmental consciousness and all of the materials and the design. I think that fits within the guidelines. There were some options for gravel. I would say I would like the more gray toned in material. I think that goes better with the architectural materials. In regards to the architectural materials, I agree. I think they're all high quality, and the mass, bulk, and scale of the site feels aesthetically appropriate as well, but I would also support a slight decrease. Unfortunately, yeah, the ADU is now included. And I think the site has appropriate screening along the property, and you really don't see much of the home, and it's respectful to the neighbors. Those are my comments. Oh, also want to agree that the stormwater management, the city has really strict standards now, so if anyone's listening, I'm certain that the stormwater will be captured, and I agree with the underground management instead of looking at a detention basin. I appreciate it underground. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we go back to there was a site photograph that showed the next door neighbor, the Hacks home, that overall. Okay. Yes, that one. So I'm really kind of disappointed. I like the other house a lot better, but that's my opinion. Not so much because of my preference is traditional, but it is traditional, but the fact that it kind of plays off the Hacks home. So the style of the home that you have there now, I'm struggling with simply because of the neighborhood compatibility issues of your surrounding homes. I'm not saying the design of the house isn't spectacular, but it doesn't fit this neighborhood. So I have to see you making a concerted effort that your house kind of blends in with the Hacks home. And I was looking at our guidelines, and it said neighborhood compatibility, but it doesn't say anything about it if it happens to not being seen from the street. Now, we do have a purview that there's public and private views if someone's interfering with them. But as far as neighborhood compatibility, I don't see this house compatible. So I liked what Board Member Arkalian said about adding some pitched roofs. I think you really need to work on that. And I am super sensitive of how long it takes for these things to, like I told earlier, I have projects that are, and I've got clients calling me, and it's kind of a nightmare. But, so I'm sensitive to that. But however, in this case, I can't support the style of the house based on the already developed neighborhood. I also can't support that much turf. I know they're saying they're trying to be sensitive to the runoff, but it's a landfill issue too with the turf when it's no longer used. You're saying no. So say something about that.
So the synthetic turf has evolved immensely over the past few years.
Okay.
And now it's biodegradable. You can get all kinds of new products that have all kinds of great qualities. And that issue came up actually the first time we did the project about going into a landfill. And since then, there are many brands available that it's now biodegradable, so that's no longer an issue.
That's really important because we did have a landscape architect that used to be adamant about that, and I didn't know that. So I appreciate you telling me that, so I feel a little better about that.
And, and the information is on my plan, actually.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay, cool. Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So most of the Mesa consists of a variety of homes, and most of those homes are in the 12 to 20 feet apart, and we have quite an array of styles. We've got a relatively isolated parcel here, and we have 40 feet between only one adjacent home. So I'm trying to wrap my head around.
It's too much of a change in architecture. It's too much of a contrast. You've got this little cottage.
Between one structure or
Well,
between the
those are my
neighborhood?
what's informing me is the Hacks house.
Yeah.
That's what's telling me what you need to do. You need to kind of work with that. And so those are my comments. I am one board member of 7. Oh, your eyes look like they're about to pop out of your head. What do you want to say?
I have one more comment.
Sure.
To add. I would just ask if you can study a reduction in the plate heights, particularly the first story, and second story as well. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, so those are just my comments. They're not etched in stone. Those are my comments. So I really want you to take that into account and hear what we all said. So with that being said, can someone entertain a motion, or did you want to say something? Did the city want to say something?
Chair Miller, just one more area of comments that would be helpful as we're processing this application going forward to Planning Commission. In our application review letters, we've mentioned to the applicants that story poles would be required. Usually we get immediate pushback from applicants when we say that because they like to do alternatives like 3D simulations or photo simulations,
Okay.
which is fine. But given what I've heard today, it doesn't sound like you're greatly concerned about views and height, et cetera. So I would just like an opinion from this board if y'all think you would need story poles to find neighborhood compatibility, or if you could accept alternatives.
I can't support the current style of the house, so story poles to me is a little too premature. That's my feeling. I don't know what the other board members feel, but that's my feeling. So,
Right. I mean, you could decide you don't like it, or you'd like it without story poles. So it sounds like the board has done that. Just wanted to ask if you think you will at some point be needing story poles.
I don't know.
I think we might resolve this for you. This is going to be the strangely unique case where I don't push back on story poles. I think story poles are going to demonstrate this project really well in terms of its impacts.
Okay.
And our intention is to put them up probably prior to Planning Commission so that they can get a good sense of this. And then what we would like to do is really document those poles while they're up. Then we don't want to have to put them up a second time for
That's what
PDA.
I'm concerned about too.
But I think we plan on putting them up prior to Planning Commission, documenting them, and then your board will have the photos. I would encourage all of you to come out when we have the story poles up
Yes,
prior to Planning
I
Commission.
agree with you. So, so this process here, if they were to do story polls after our comments, do they do the story polls after our comments, or do they ignore our comments and put up the story polls based on what they've drawn now? That's the concern I
I'm
have.
taking it based on the review here that the SFDB would like to see this project back again before
Yes,
it goes
we
to
would.
Planning Commission.
Yes.
So, yeah, they can.
Maybe after that time, they could,
Well, the applicant mentioned they would like to time them prior to Planning
But he also
Commission.
doesn't
So
want
it'd probably be after this
Yeah,
board
'cause you don't wanna
continues
do
it
it
to
twice.
Planning Commission, then they would erect the story poles. And you
Yeah,
could
this is
go-
only a concept review anyway, so
Right.
we don't take any action today.
True. And the next review, when they come back, would be a second concept review.
I believe
Well-
it's at your discretion what you want to call it at that
yeah,
time.
exactly. So would someone like to entertain a motion?
Do we need a motion on a concept
This
review?
project is here for formal comments only, and you can continue it.
Yeah, we're looking for a motion to continue it back
Okay,
to the
could someone
SFDB.
make a motion to continue the project?
I have a question for discussion. So as far as all board members, do you feel that it's not ready to go to Planning Commission for comments, that you do want it to come back?
I want it to come back.
Okay, just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify.
I don't.
So, Chair Miller, can you please make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we bring it back to the full board with the following comments. To study reducing the plate heights, to study that the style of the architecture is a little more compatible, in particular with the house that's adjacent to it. study perhaps some different material other than the charcoal wood. Possibly using a stone veneer. And I believe those are my comments.
May I add? Oh,
Well,
second.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second, and then I have a.
Sure, absolutely. Now it's open to discussion. Do you want to modify the move?
Please go ahead.
For the applicant to consider a reduction in FAR.
Okay. And what was yours?
Oh, just, you made a comment about perhaps a stone veneer. I guess if that's a substitute for the charred wood siding, I would suggest giving more leeway to the architect in terms of.
Something alternate, other than charred wood, look at other alternatives. So we'll modify it. I agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a quick question? You also said a lot about the appropriateness of the location, and et cetera, on the site.
Oh.
It'd be great if that was in your motion.
Yeah, we appreciate the location of the house. We think it is appropriate and that you were sensitive to the setbacks and the requirements to the, whatever they call that, the flood zone, erosion zone, the bluff zone. Thank you. So that was appropriately designed to take into concern, to be sensitive to the bluff zone requirements.
Okay.
I accept those changes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Chair Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
No.
and Board Member R. Killian.
I wanted to ask staff to repeat the
yeah.
motion.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Reduce the plate heights, study the architecture more acceptable, study the, other than the charcoal wood, possibly a stone veneer or other alternatives, study reduction in the FAR, and the board appreciates the sensitivity to the bluff zone requirement.
In studying the architecture, can you say to be a little more sympathetic with the neighbor's house or to
To be
something
more
like-
acceptable for the neighborhood? Or more sensitive to the neighborhood?
Yes, more sensitive to the neighborhood. Yeah. Because it could be modern.
And the motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can we just, sorry to interrupt, Chair Miller, just for a moment and for the record, if Ms. Klein could state her reasoning.
Yes, I think the materials are high quality, and looking at the whole entire neighborhood, there is more modern designs, so that's it.
Thank you.
And I had a question as
Sure.
well. Am I too late? I am in support of, I would be in support if the board would come back with, or if the applicant would come back with simulations, 3D simulations. Am I too late for that?
Well, that's a suggestion, that's fine. We don't
Okay.
have to necessarily put that in the motion.
Does the seconder accept those changes? That one
Oh, you're going to
change?
put that in the motion.
Yeah, well, I can put it as a comment.
Make it as a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Do you guys need a break?
Yeah. Hello. How are you?
Okay,
Pull up a chair, any chair.
pull up a chair, any chair.
And then your plans will be up here, so whoever will be presenting can control this computer.
Guess we're not doing hard copies, John.
Oh, yeah. We're electronic now.
Yeah.
I think that I may have emailed with you. I'm Holly Garson. I'm going to be staffing SFGD.
Huh? I'll run that if you want. All right.
Very valid. Good. That's right.
You know, I submitted some
Hey.
photographs.
So the photos should be in here. I combined them with the drawing.
Well, I just put some in today.
Oh, did you? You won't have them.
I brought a copy along.
Yeah, we got, you know. Do I get this when I step down? Do I get to keep it? Is Gibraltar Road postponed, or is that?
It is.
Okay, so this is our last one. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 4. This item is a continued item. They're at concept review. It's 1208 Los Alturas Road. Proposal to construct a new 3,682 square foot, 2-story, single-unit residence with a 915 square feet of attached garage buildings and 2 guest parking spaces on a vacant lot located on the Hillside Design District. Project includes associated grading and hardscape and landscape improvements, including tree removals. Staff hearing officer review and approval is required to allow the 2 uncovered guest parking spaces to encroach in the front and interior setback. The proposed total of 4,597 square feet of a 38,691 square foot lot is 94% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings and Hillside Design District and slope lot findings will be required when the project is reviewed for project design approval. Project was last reviewed on January 21st, 2020. Do we have minutes of the previous meeting?
Okay. The project was last reviewed January 21, 2020 here, and it was continued indefinitely with the following comments on the screen, and I will read through them. The size, bulk, scale, and design of the project is acceptable. Provide a color board and a materials board. Show outdoor lighting. Show garage door material. Provide definition of retaining walls, gutters, and downspouts. The minor zoning exception to allow the trash enclosure to encroach into the required interior setback is supportable. The design of the 2-story house is appreciated, given that the project does not appear to be 2 stories. The applicant has followed Section 27 of the SFDB Board Guidelines. The project cascades down hillside without intrusive penetration to the hillside area. Unless the design changes, the board is ready to address project design approval at the next meeting. Next page. The board would not be in a position to indicate the use of story poles. The board requests that the applicant and staff indicate the areas of the ADU that the board does not have purview over on a diagram. The motion carried.
All right, thank you. If you'd like to present your project, that'd be great.
Turn the microphone on first. Oh, names you said, or just present?
Well, you introduce yourself and present your project. And-
Okay, I'm John Verdiak, owner-architect of this project.
Chris Gilliland, landscape architect.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, previously,
By the way, I compliment your hand drawings. It's very
you.
refreshing.
thank you. You know, I'm computer illiterate, so it's difficult. Anyway,
Yeah.
this project is on a downslope view lot. And and it's also wooded. And I brought a couple of pictures just to illustrate. This is taken from Sheffield Drive, you know, where where you look up there and you can see these trees going across there.
Okay.
And so, you know, what developed in the process of designing it, there's sort of a natural slope, natural building pad on the site. And so that's where it's located. And in order to keep from intruding in this tree line, I've sort of, you know, stepped the building up with retaining walls.
City TV, can you zoom in on the image in front of the chair, please?
What did you say?
The city
got
TV,
this camera
so we can see the image.
Oh,
There. Perfect.
Well, anyway, what developed out of this process was integrating the garden into the floor plan of the building. And so, when I previously submitted it, it was shown in board and bat with an ADU. Now, that ADU has been deleted. And also the siding material's been changed to shingle siding. It's Cedar Valley siding, which meets the fire code. So those are two major changes that have been made. And also, the ADU was just, the site's not big enough. It's just so crowded and busy, and, it just got to be silly to do it, So, anyway, I wanted, to show you these photos, because this is that wooded site. The canopy goes across, the whole hillside there. And so with this building, it won't intrude on that forested, scene.
So, sorry to interrupt you, but I just real quickly, if you go, since you've gone before us before, we already have minutes. If you could kind of address the minutes, and I guess in my understanding, you did have an ADU and now you don't, so that's the
Yes.
change from the previous meeting. So if you could bring up the minutes, that would probably be helpful, because,
There's also a time limit, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, we don't really, since we've already approved it already, it's not like we need to go
Okay.
rehash
Well,
what we've already covered.
So, Ms. Gu, you can switch back to the staff presentation. Yeah, just so we can see the minutes again. We are here. And then just, you can look
So-
at
so we're
what
looking
the,
at outdoor, color board and outdoor lighting, your garage door material, definition of retaining walls, gutters and downspouts.
those are, with the exception of the gutters and downs, well, I do have a gutter detail.
Okay, if you want to show us.
Those are
that.
on the drawings. I think that's sheet
Switch over here.
4.
Okay, so
Yeah, go to 4.
yeah, that's 4.
All right, 5 then, 6. All right, this is the material board showing the roofing material, the paving, the siding finish, the window type, and the colors. Here's the colors in 3D if you want to look at them. And so those are the retaining wall details. Also, to be a stone. There's a lot of stone on the site, and hopefully I'll recover enough to, once we start grading, we did some excavation work for the soil report, and so it's rocky in a sense, but I might get enough to build these retaining walls.
Okay.
So does that, and
yeah.
there's no garbage enclosure asked for anymore. That's been eliminated.
Okay. And do you have anything you want to present on the landscape?
I mean, sure.
Okay, so if we go to 3, or 2 is the floor plan, we can look at that. That illustrates the garden going through, the north is to the top, the mountain view, and Los Alturas Road is to the bottom of the sheet. And so the grading, it's about 500 yards. And the grading will balance on site. Okay, we'll go to the elevations. That would be, illustrating the shingle siding. And these are sections, there's what you would view from the road is the bottom left corner there. And the next sheet is, anyway, the garden, which is, oh,
There's the lights, okay.
yeah, okay, this is the lighting scheme with the, illustrating the outdoor lighting. There's no uplighting.
Okay.
They're all dark sky compliant. And now these are illustrating preliminary grading plans. And I go to the next sheet. On the left, it shows sections through the site, showing the maximum amount of fill behind the retaining walls. And the next sheet also shows that. And then there's the landscape plan.
Landscape plan. I mean, it's, you know, it's fairly straightforward, really. I mean, John kind of designed in the driveway, so we're talking permeable pavers for that, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then, you know, basic one-car garage over here and two-car here, and a little pull-out or backup zone off to the east. You know, just a little walkway around the side with enhanced materiality like flagstone to match the entry, and then in this little raised, cool interior courtyard on the second floor, flagstone with planted joints and grouted joints, and the little stoops and patios that where the ingress and egress is from the house. Little terrace walls down. Trash ends up, there's no enclosure because it's hidden sort of behind this other garage. And then, I mean, the majority of this, the rest of the site down below we're not touching. That's oak woodland, and we'll leave that as is.
Okay.
You know, we have our preliminary plant list. We'll be screening kind of informal hedge, mixed hedge along the street to get some privacy, even though you really don't see that much of the house. And then there's some nice large oaks also at the top of the property. And we'll be adding one or two more trees for additional screening. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Bring it back to the board. Did we get any public comment?
Okay, for this particular item, no, we did not receive any public comment.
Ms. Gu, is there anyone attending via Zoom that has their hand raised?
We do not have any attendees on this item. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Board Member Ari Kaling, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
All right, Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, I do. Just, probably just one, Mr. Verdiak, and I hope I pronounced that closely.
That was very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. But my question was, your neighbor next door, and do you have any photos of what is next door to your property in terms of architecture?
Yeah. That one on the upper left is the house next door.
Okay.
And the house on the other side can't be seen at all. It's down below. If we go over, all you see is that garage. You know, the house is
So
down
it
below
drops down,
behind
yeah.
the garage.
I
This
see.
is your, oh, yeah.
And across the street, there's no houses visible. I mean, it's all, you know,
Shielded, just, okay.
yeah, hedges, which is shown, one of those, if we go to the, yeah, see, like the one in the middle, that's what it looks like across the street, and that's a view to the left and to the right. So there's, you know, it's a very quiet street, you know.
Okay. All right, that's great. And then on the section shots on page 4, I think it is, I just want to make sure I'm interpreting those correctly, comparing this page 3 with page 4, that,
Go to
am I, okay, yeah, let's go another page. And one, there you go. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, that am I understanding that the the expanse of windows here on what direction is that? I guess on the east end here is shielded then by another portion of the house in front of that? Am I reading that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and likewise with that interior courtyard where you were on, right there?
That's on the north side. The
Yeah.
section in the middle illustrates the north side. That's exposed, so you wouldn't get any sun on that.
Yeah,
And then the one on the top shows what's facing east.
so behind that, or, yeah, behind, if you flip to page 4 then, or what is it, page 3? I'm just trying to sync those up. The next page, sorry. I'm looking at the numbers on the actual page itself. So what is the north elevation is the front of the house, right?
Well, it's actually the back.
It's the back of the house. Okay, now I see. All right.
That's the
got it.
best view.
That's the best view. Okay, I think I got it, but thank you.
Okay, Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
I have no questions at this time either, so I'll bring it back for comments. Board Member Ari Kelly, do you have any comments?
I do. I believe the applicants have addressed all items of the motion in a way that it's aesthetically appropriate and compatible with the neighborhood. That's
Okay,
all.
thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Only that I think it's, the aesthetically, it fits in with the design guidelines and the neighborhood, and the materials all look to be high quality. So I think it's I appreciate the project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I agree. I think that it's ready for project design approval, and I would be able to make the findings for the neighborhood, the hillside, and the slope lot findings. I think it's a well-designed project.
Mr. Chair, I did want to, before you continue your comments, so it is discussed in the project description that as currently designed, there's 2 guest parking spaces located in the setbacks that require a modification. And this project is currently not deemed complete. It's still within city review. That's why it's scheduled for concept review, not for an approval at today's hearing. So I did want to check with the applicant. Are you still pursuing those guest parking spaces, or is the
That's
intent
up
to
in the
remove?
air. I think we'd have
Okay.
a meeting on that, and, if it just turns out to be a back-out space, then
Okay.
that'd be that.
So just
But-
for the benefit, since it's seeming to lean towards that this could go for project design approval at the next potential hearing, if you have any comments regarding aesthetic appropriateness of those 2 guest parking spaces, just so that's included
Great,
in the
thank you. I
discussion.
could say, just add, if I was to make comments, I would support it based to get cars off the street, so I think it's a positive thing, so.
Yeah, it just makes the back-out for the right space
Oh, yeah, there you
tight,
go. Okay, yeah, if you'd like to make a motion, that'd be great.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion with the following comments: that the board finds the materials high quality, that it fits within the neighborhood compatibility, and as well as the hillside and the slope lot. And we appreciate the thoughtfulness in design. We would accept the modification of the parking off-site, the 2 extra spaces, if desired. And it's ready for project design approval at your next meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh,
2 seconds.
all right, may I have a roll call, please?
Board Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Achille,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
and Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
Yeah, the motion passes. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chair Miller, if you'll close up the meeting.
All right, I'd like to conclude the Single Family Design Board for June 6, 2022. Thank you very much.